Good morning. If Bill Schuette and Lisa Posthumous Lyons win on Election Day, they will be making history in this state. To the best of our knowledge, the daughter of a previous Michigan lieutenant governor has not been elected to that same position. But the current Kent County clerk is trying to do just that. Who is she and what does she add to the gubernatorial ticket? Find out today on our Sunday morning program. It's Sunday, October the 14th. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is a Spotlight on the News Democracy 2018 special.
Lisa Posthumous Lyons.
When I got elected to the House of Representatives, I went to work with our Republican-led legislature and Governor Snyder to improve our economy and to help bring jobs back to our state, and it's worked.
I'm not sure about this, so correct me if I'm wrong, but if you and Bill Schuette win, you'll be making history of sorts, I think. I can't think of another time in which there's been someone running for lieutenant governor whose father also was lieutenant governor, and both of you get that position. Am I right or wrong? Or has there been another one?
As far as I know, that would be a first, at least in recent history. So that's kind of, it really is kind of exciting. But it will also be exactly 20 years ago.
Oh, really?
When Dad was elected lieutenant governor.
That's right, because he was, what, 1999 to
yep.
1998, okay, and then served with Governor Engler. Should that play into people's thinking when they go into the polls for any reason? I
don't think so. I don't think you know, a family lineage necessarily comes into play, other than I am very proud of the service and leadership that my mom and dad have provided into the community, and they certainly set an example for me and my siblings. But truly, there is experience that I bring to the table in my own right, and I think experience and where people stand, where the candidates stand on issues, that's what Michiganders need to focus on when they make their decision. All
right, and we should say for some of the younger people out in the audience who may not remember your dad, Dick Posthumous, what is it that you believe you bring to the ticket? You've served in the Michigan House of Representatives. You are currently the Kent County clerk. Which one of those jobs prepared you the most or the best for what you're now seeking?
I think all of my jobs, all of my roles have all shaped me and prepared me to join Bill Schuette on the ticket and to lead Michigan, to move our state forward and to continue that comeback. The experience I've had in the legislature is a big one. As lieutenant governor, you work hand in hand with the legislature to advance the governor's policy and vision for the state of Michigan, and that's an experience that you can't learn on the go. I mean, I'll be able to hit the ground running on day one. And as lieutenant governor, when it comes to presiding over the Senate, that is a tie-breaking vote on some very major issues for the state, and so that's not a responsibility to take lightly. As county clerk and register of deeds, that is a very administrative role, a chief executive role.
Very close to the people. It's about voting.
Very close, and especially when it comes to the clerk's office and the register of deeds, I tell folks when talking about that, you know, I meet people at every major milestone of their life, the good, the bad, and the ugly, you know, from births, marriages, deaths, buying property, you know, dealing with the court system and the circuit court. It is very close to the people and very administratively functioned. So those two experiences and roles has really prepared me for the job. And then, you know, my biggest roles as a wife and a mom, that brings a very unique perspective.
How many kids?
I have 4 kids.
Okay.
Yep. My husband, Brad, and I are high school sweethearts. We've been married for 15 years.
All right.
In September was our anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. You know, and we have 4 kids. He's a sergeant in the Kent County Sheriff's Office and a canine handler as well.
You were raised in Alto, Michigan.
Yes.
You're raised on a farm.
Yes.
The farm is still in the family.
Yes.
You went to Michigan State University, got a degree, and you studied agriculture. This is a big agricultural state. As you run for this very important office, the second most powerful office in this state, what is it you'd like to do in that position to be able to help out those that produce crops and make it so that we got food on the table in this state.
Thank you for acknowledging agriculture. It is a huge sector of our state's economy, and back in the last decade, when jobs were leaving the state in droves and taking our families with them, the agricultural industry was kind of the backbone holding the state economy up at that point. And it's been beautiful to watch as we've had this comeback, the agricultural industry continue to bloom and grow. I am a farm girl first and foremost, so a lot of people will try and talk about this political pedigree with a family history of public service, but truly I was really proud to be a part of Michigan's agricultural heritage and history, and I think we have to do for agriculture what we have to do for all sectors of the economy, and make sure that there are jobs and that the government is reduced regulation and off the backs of our hardworking farmers, our hardworking job providers, and providing a simple, a fair, and efficient tax structure for them to be able to be competitive.
We need to slip a little break in here. We'll hurry right back with some more questions to Lisa Posthumous Lyons, Lieutenant Governor candidate on the Republican side of the fence. We hope you stay with us. And welcome back to Spotlight. You chaired the House Education Committee when you were in the Michigan House of Representatives. First of all, I think a lot of people out there in this very partisan world that we're living in now, coming over from the Grand Rapids area, the quick question is going to be, okay, what do you think of Betsy DeVos, Secretary of Education, and do you support her education policies?
I was really proud to be the chair of the House Education Committee for 3.5 years. We were able to do a lot of policies to help make sure that kids, wherever they lived, had a quality education, and to kind of grow and improve that area. And what we really wanted to focus on was empowering parents, giving them options for what's best for their children and their families, and providing tools and resources for our teachers and for our schools, especially when it comes to literacy. I was also really excited to kind of begin this paradigm shift in putting an emphasis and a focus on vocational education and skilled trades, and making sure that students had more opportunity to take those courses and flexibility in their curriculum to have those courses count toward their graduation requirements. Whether it's Betsy DeVos or the teachers unions, if it's about the kids, I think that's the focus.
Do you think she's doing a good job as Education Secretary? I
think that's a very difficult position to be in at the federal level, because I think it's important to make sure that our local schools have as much flexibility and control, and their hands aren't tied from the federal government. So I recognize it's a hard position, and I think she's doing a good job kind of reining in the role of the federal government, but putting the focus on quality and keeping the focus on kids.
The Michigan Education Association has supported Gretchen Whitmer, the Democratic candidate for this. They're putting out campaign literature attacking you and Mr. Schuette. One of the things that they're citing in their literature that's going into a lot of homes is a quote from you when you were chair of the House Education Committee, and it was one of those heated debates that oftentimes happens on the floor, and it says, you said, quote, pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. First of all, did you say that, and can you explain the context in which you said it, and is that being misrepresented in campaign literature, or is that your feeling about teachers and the education system?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that, and I really appreciate that question. I remember that discussion, that issue very, very well. And when I had said, and yes, that has been grossly misrepresented, completely taken out of context, and that is exactly what turns people off to politics, when spin doctors come in and take these things out of context. So who were you aiming
the quote at?
Yep, we were debating an issue on the floor, and the comment was, and again, I'm a farm girl. These are sayings that I learned growing up on the farm, and the context of that comment was in complete relation to the negotiation process between all the different interested parties at the table where we were talking about how to craft this legislation, and what these different groups or parties were interested in and wanted to see. And as we had disagreements, we worked toward a common area, and then they would move the goalpost, and then move the goalpost again. And so it got very frustrating, but that was not anybody who knows me knows that I would never call teachers or anybody disparaging names. And I mean, I've got a lot of friends who are public school teachers. My kids are in public school. I went to public school. A lot of my family are public school teachers. And it just, like I said, this is what turns people off to politics. And I'm going to get into that. I'm not going to play that game with the Democrats.
Why should the voters out there pick you and Bill Schuette over Gretchen Whitmer and Garland Gilchrist? This
election is very important, and they all are, but we have, the election is as simple as making one choice. Are we going to go backwards to the policies of the lost decade where Jennifer Granholm and Gretchen Whitmer supported policies that drove our state economy into the ground, or are we going to continue Michigan's comeback and move this state forward? And that's the question we have to ask. Contrast that to what's happened over the last 8 years. We've delivered real results. You know, we've got record low unemployment rate. Our personal income is growing, jobs are growing, and our families are able to stay here in Michigan and thrive.
What's the biggest difference between you and Bill Schuette?
I think that's a good question, because you're right. Nobody can agree with somebody on everything and every way and all the time. Bill Schuette and I have, we really are partners, and we share similar views and values. I think probably one of the biggest differences between the two of us is just, frankly, our dispositions and our temperaments. He is very calm. He's very calm and he's cool, and I'm a little more outgoing and exuberant, and I think that makes for a good compliment.
Will you differ on health care? He has very much locked arms with President Trump in his view on health care. When you were in the legislature, you worked with the governor to push what type of health care we currently have in this state, and there's been a big difference between Rick Snyder's view of health care for this state and Donald Trump and Bill Schuette's view on health care.
I do not support government-run health care. I just want to be real clear about that. I think that puts people's quality, accessibility, and affordability truly at risk. I did support the Medicaid expansion that went through the legislature several years ago, and I did that, that was part of the Obamacare mandate, and as part of Obamacare, we as a state had to decide, are we going to expand the Medicaid population, or are we going to set that population into the federal health care exchange? And for me, as I dove into the issue, I mean, it is a complicated issue when it comes to health care. As I dove into that, for me, I learned that it is less costly to the taxpayers to expand the Medicaid population versus that federal health care exchange. And we were able to institute work requirements. That was the intent of that legislation for able-bodied individuals receiving those Medicaid benefits. So the fact that there was work requirements, the fact that it was less expensive for our taxpayers, that's why I chose to cast my vote that way.
Bill Schuette says first item of business is to really go after. Are you going to stand up to him and say, wait, no, that's the wrong way to go here?
Bill Schuette has been very clear, and I know Gretchen Whitmer has been very disingenuous with Bill Schuette's record when it comes to health care, especially pre-existing conditions, coverage for individuals with pre-existing conditions. She has tried to mislead the public and say that he wants to get rid of coverage for those individuals, and nothing could be further from the truth.
All right, we're going to give you a second to grab a little water here, take a little breather, and we'll be right back with more questions. And welcome back to Spotlight. There are 3 ballot proposals that are going to be facing the voters. Where do you stand on these?
I know
a couple of them are very close to a clerk's position.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Bill Schuette is opposed to all 3 of those ballot proposals and has said that whatever is enacted, if one, two, or all three of them are enacted, that's the voters will have spoken, and that will be the law of the land. I have concerns with the elections proposals with 2 and 3. When it comes to redistricting, the process we have right now, where the legislature draws those lines, I think is ideal to the process that's being proposed.
Shouldn't be done by a group of citizens?
I don't think it should be done by an appointed commission, because the whole theory, misrepresentation of that ballot proposal is that it's going to take the politics out of that process, and you simply can't do that. What that does is that removes the accountability to the voters in that process. These are unelected individuals that are going to make these decisions. The process we have now, the people who make these decisions, who draw those lines, they're directly accountable to the voters of this state.
Proponents of Promote the Vote say that this would open up the process. It would make it a lot easier for people to vote in this day and age where we can go to an ATM 24 hours a day and do pretty much everything 24 hours a day. Why are we making it so difficult for people to be able to vote and get involved in the whole process? Your response?
I'm a mom. I've got 4 kids. I've got a job, a family to run. I understand how important it is to make voting easy, voting convenient, but we also have to protect and preserve the integrity and the security of our elections, and that's been a priority of mine as the Kent County Clerk.
You think that'll open it up to fraud in voting?
I'm very concerned about that. I think, especially when it comes to putting these items in the Constitution, it is very difficult to make changes if there are unintended consequences or things like that. I really believe, my record speaks volumes. I've supported measures to make voting more convenient for individuals, secure no reason absentee voting, where you don't have to give a reason to vote absentee, and I think that's important. I also was an advocate and championed and authored the legislation for stricter voter ID laws, because I believe, and I know the public believes too, you should prove you are who you say you are when you cast a ballot.
In 2012, you supported right to work. Your opponents say, yes, you support it, but then you tried to exempt your husband from it, and he was working for the Department of Corrections. True or false?
My husband has always worked for the Kent County Sheriff's Office. He is a MCOLS certified law enforcement officer. He's worked in the Kent County Jail, and I believe I've been consistent. This was not just a right to work issue. I have been consistent that those law enforcement officers that work in our jails need to be treated the same as their public safety brethren and the road patrols or in firefighters. That is truly a public police, fire, corrections. That's a public safety trifecta, and they need to be treated equally. That's why I support moving our corrections officers under Public Act 312. So, right. Because again, that is what police on the road and our firefighters also are under, and they need to be treated the same.
All right, one more pause for the cause. We'll come right back with the final segment with Lisa Posthumous Lyons. Stay with us.
Today is our Independence Day.
When he was running for president, you said, quote, demeaning women and disrespecting others is unacceptable. Donald Trump has not earned my respect or my vote. Later, when you got on the ticket,
Lisa will be a full team member, complete immersion, complete engagement, complete involvement in every way.
Later, when you got on the ticket, you said, I support President Trump and the policies that are coming out of his administration. And then you go on to talk about some of the reasons why. It's the real Lisa Posthumous Lyons here.
I think women, not just women, I believe everybody should be treated with respect and dignity. Everybody, from everyone. And that's why I did struggle with the president, who has a tone that's different from mine. And you know what, Chuck? A lot of people had that same struggle. I wasn't alone in that. But
no, you weren't.
But I look at what's gone on in Michigan, the results that have helped turn this state around. I look at what's coming from Washington, those results in terms of tax cuts for hardworking Americans, jobs moving from Mexico to Michigan, like what's going on in Macomb County, and rule of law judges taking the bench throughout the nation, not to mention the bodies of our heroes from the Korean War after decades have finally been brought home. Those are real results, and I really believe we need to focus on results because that's what the people deserve. That's why I really think it's important that I've challenged Garland Gilchrist to 3 debates, and they've blown us off. And I don't believe they should take—
Why do you think they've done that?
I think that the only conclusion I can come up with is that Gretchen Whitmer does not want Garland Gilchrist's extreme views to be learned by the people. And I say that not knowing a whole lot about Garland Gilchrist, because nobody does. Gretchen Whitmer, Bill Schuette, and I all have public records by which we can be held accountable to the voters and be judged by. He
says that's an asset, that people are tired of career politicians and they want people to come in and bring fresh ideas, and they don't want someone who's been down the line in public service. They want an engineer, they want a fresh thinker.
Then what are they afraid of? Let's talk about these. The people deserve to hear where the second in command stands on issues, what their experience is, because they've got to be prepared to lead, and what their vision for Michigan is. Chuck, I won't even ask for a footstool to stand on stage. I think the people of Michigan are being done a disservice by the call for lieutenant governor debates being blown off by Gretchen Whitmer.
Are you concerned by the tenor and tone of President Trump and some of the comments he has made about women, not just when he was on the campaign trail, but during the time he's been in office as the chief executive of these entire United States?
I have a daughter, and I have 3 sons, and I am teaching my children to treat people, to love their neighbor, to love their enemy, and to treat people with respect. And I think the tone and tenor throughout politics. This isn't just about President Trump. This transcends parties. I think we all would do our future citizens well in keeping focused on the issues and making sure that when we discuss issues and debate those issues, I mean, this is done with a discourse that's civil and respectful, and let the ideas of the day win.
Do you drive an American car?
I do. I drive a minivan. I love my minivan.
Okay, what kind of minivan?
I have a Chrysler Town and Country.
All right, and so viewers can get some sense of just maybe who you are. What's a good movie that you've seen recently that you think you would recommend to others, and why? My family, we've watched Ferdinand. That's a very fun-filled family movie. Good luck. Thank you. On Election Day. And I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the spotlight. We hope you have a great week.